Hi, my name is Irwin Sattinger. I'm 91 years old, and I'm going to relate a little bit about my experience as a young man in high school in Los Angeles in the early 1940s. I attended the University High School in Los Angeles, and as any other high school student was enjoying my high school years. And in 1941, December 1941, my whole life started changing when World War II started, when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And one of my early recollections at that time, and I think I was a sophomore in high school, I became a junior air raid warden because Los Angeles was supposedly a target for Japanese submarines, and they were trying to control the light to eliminate a target for any submarines that may be off the coast. It never happened, but the one thing that did happen that was discerning was all of our Japanese students and their parents were removed from Los Angeles and sent to camps, including one in Florence, Arizona, where they were interned for the balance of the war. And it's sort of interesting that after all these years, I can remember one or two of the people that I was very friendly with and never knew whatever happened to them after they were taken out of our school. And the next phase of my life, when I was getting ready to graduate in the summer of 1944, and I was 17 years old, my first plan had been to go to UCLA and start college. But I had to register for the draft. And lo and behold, that this is when I became 18 in September. Call to the draft happened shortly after my 18th birthday, which was quite an experience for me and my family. I had never been away from home, never traveled anywhere. And reported for duty and was transported by troop train from Los Angeles to Camp Roberts, California, where it had two garrisons in the fort there. The West Garrison was where the training facilities were for the infantry, and the East Garrison was a German war prisoners camp. It went through 16 weeks of basic training and learned how to use rifles, guns, machine guns, automatic rifles, not as sophisticated as the ones that we have today, but they did have a canister that you could pull the trigger each time to get a bullet placed into the BAR, they called it. And that was one of the heaviest instruments beside the machine gun. And we took bayonet training. Part of our training was crawling on the ground with your belly as close as you could get it while they're shooting live ammunition over you to get you used to not picking your head up or looking while you're under machine gun fire. Fortunately and luckily, they also had some wire cage over us, so if somebody got scared or something, they couldn't pick their head up high enough during training, but it was a good exercise. After 16 weeks basic training, we were supposed to have 2 weeks of leave home. However, at this time during the war in Europe, the Germans had outrun quite a few positions that the American troops and the English had in France. And they drained a lot of the troops that would have normally gone to the east, which was the Philippine Islands and all the other islands that are in the Pacific out there, in the Asian Pacific Oceans. And so they cut short our home leave. We shipped to Fort Ord, California. And then from Fort Ord, California, where we got our final shots, uniforms, we went by train to San Francisco to load a troop ship. And fortunately, it was probably good luck for all of us that were excess baggage. They had made a mistake on how many troops they could get on the ship. So they took probably, I'm guessing today, I'm thinking it was 500 of us out into the San Francisco Bay to a place called Angel Island. And that was an Italian war prisoners camp. So we had no duty to do there, no kitchen duty, no guard duty. There was actually a separate squad or two of troops that protected the Italians and protected, or didn't protect, but they made sure they didn't escape. And then it was 30 days cruising across the Pacific Ocean, zigzagging, because we had Japanese submarines out there. Landed, I was 18 years old now, landed in Leyte, which was an island that was secured from the Japanese. And we were assigned, the people on that troop ship, which were probably 2,000 soldiers, were assigned to the different divisions that were out there. The 6th Army Division was out there. I'm sorry, the 6th Infantry Division was out there, the 40th Infantry Division, and I was assigned to the 40th Division, 108th Regimental Combat Team, and shortly thereafter made my first amphibious landing on the island of Mindanao. And these landings take place off of a troop ship which anchored out away from the coast. And we load into small landing crafts. We crawl over the side of the ship down rope ladders to these landing crafts, which then make the run early in the morning and drop the front of the ship, drops down to the landing craft, and the soldiers dash out onto the beach. And that was my first experience in combat. Unfortunately for us, the Japanese had blown up one of the bridges about 15 or 20 miles inland from the coast over a large gorge, and the Army engineers had to fix a rope bridge for us to get to the other side of the wash of the gorge. And from that point on, we had no support with any equipment such as tanks or food. Everything had to be airdropped to us. And at night, we would be like the old days of the West here and the Indians. When we bivouacked or just made our foxholes during the night, we would make them in a big circle. And the old PFCs like me, the infantry riflemen, we would have a large circle in which we made our foxholes. The Japanese now had gone up into the mountains, and they would shell us, and we'd have to try to get the best protection we could. And then as we kept moving inland, the Japanese going further and further back into the hills. One time we got an airdrop of our daily rations and all, and also overcoats. Now we're in the Philippine Islands, and by now a lot of us have caught malaria. Rainy, hot, humid, like Tucson, and except a little worse because it was more humid there. And as we worked our way up into the mountains, or probably go back a step there, when the Army dropped all these overcoats and we said situation normal, and then we used some superlatives, cussing out the supply people because the overcoats are heavy. But fortunately we had some of the natives that would hang around us, because when we got all of our sea rations, they would barter for cigarettes and carry some of the heavy loads for us. So we gave them our overcoats. Well, lo and behold, within 10 days, 2 weeks, we've climbed a pretty high mountain. It's like going from Tucson to the, out here in, I forgot, 90 years old, I forgot the name of our mountain. Oh, Mount Memnon, I'm sorry. Anyways, and then we wish we had overcoats because it even got worse. Cold, raining. And then they pulled my regimental combat team away from the island of Mindanao and transported us to another island called Panay. And Panay was a very beautiful island, had a beautiful city called Iloilo, had not been touched too much by the war because it was not an important island for defense of the area and all. And we were told we were going to start training again. And we started all of our training over again, from bayonet practice to machine gun fire and conditioning, because we were going to make an invasion of Japan shortly. And the organization I was with, the 40th Division and the 108th Regimental Combat Team, were going to be a part of that division that was going to take place before the main assault on the Japanese islands, with the theory that the Japanese, thinking that this was the main thrust, would pull their reserves into that area, and then the other army that was prepared to go in on a different Japanese island could go in and maybe have less people who were, defending it. They'd have a clearer path to move in land faster. And during our training on the island of Panay, one day we get the news that Harry Truman made the decision, which I, for one, would not be living today if he had not dropped those atom bombs when he did. Because when they published the division history, they said that our group, which was you might say there's a term I can't think of they use when you're the guinea pigs, to draw the Japanese to that area, would have 90% casualties, killed and wounded. So you can see why I kissed the ground that Harry Truman walked on. And then our unit had been pretty well combat loaded and had been training, and we had a ship in the harbor. We were picked up, camped there, and went to Korea and landed at Incheon. And Incheon was a very shallow harbor, so the troop ships couldn't go in. We had to take us in dinghies. I never forget the night we disembarked, and we went on trains that were operated by the Korean engineers. But fortunately, they have sent American engineers who were familiar with trains to ride in the cabs. And our job was to get to a place called Gyeongju, where the Japanese had a Kawasaki training field. and we were to make sure that none of those pilots took off to bomb troop ships going to Japan. And I spent a year and a half in Korea, and was supposed to have some surgery there because I got wounded. And when I heard I heard that I could be on the next troop ship, I said, forget the surgery, I want to go home. And I returned back through Washington, the state of Washington, returned. The government had a great public law program, college program for veterans. And as I'm being wounded and having malaria, I was able to go to USC and get in 3 and some odd years my education. And that's it for my military life. But it's an experience, and I hope our young kids today, our young people, not kids, because you're 18 and you go in the service, you're not a kid anymore. You're a man, because they make a man out of you. I do say that my military training did not hurt me. It made a man out of me, because I was just a kid who was another kid in high school. But they gave me some direction, and I learned how to live with other people. And that's my story. Thank you for listening. As an afterthought, and not knowing who might see this, and I'm assuming it might be just students in junior high school or wherever it is, but strive in school to get good grades, work hard, have an ambition, and follow your ambition or your dreams. And you can make them come true. But it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of heartache, and a lot of self-control. But life can be beautiful. And I wish that they'd find a cure for all the diseases, and we could have in our world peace and goodwill to all men. And one thing you learn in the Army is how to live with everyone, all types of people. So that's my story, and that's my wish. Thank you.
Do you have any regrets? If so, what is your biggest regret?
You know, I had a relationship that didn't last. And, you never know how it could have worked out. The beauty of it is I have 3 beautiful children. And all of them have been good students and have been successful in their ventures. Some struggle at times. And when you get advice from your parents or friends, especially your parents, listen to them. Because I think they can help. They've been through it.